So I have here the 4K collector's editions of Halloween 2 and Halloween 4 from Scream Factory. As with Halloween, each comes in a very nice, solid cardboard slipcase. Halloween 2 is a 3-disc set, the 4K Blu-ray, the standard Blu-ray, and a DVD with the TV cut of Halloween 2 on it. Halloween 4 is just a 2-disc set with the 4K Blu-ray and the standard Blu-ray. The new Dolby Atmos track is on the 4K Blu-ray and the standard Blu-ray. Something I didn't mention in my Halloween review is the reversible artwork. I don't buy a whole lot of discs from Scream or Shout Factory, so it isn't apparent to me that that's the thing that they do. But now that I do, I see it as a feature that I will take advantage of. Perhaps not with Halloween 2 because I'm not a huge fan of the original artwork. I think the pumpkin artwork on the poster for the original Halloween is far more clever, with the knife being the last jagged edge. Another reviewer I was watching said that the new interview with Jeffrey Chernov is not on this disc. And that is true. It is not there. I have not been able to find it. On the regular Blu-ray, when I pressed the up arrow from the top selection, a pumpkin appeared, but that just took me to a brief 20-second video. The same reviewer said that when he was watching the movie, there was a glitch on the disc. In one of the scenes, there was some pixelation. I'm happy to say that I did not experience that. The video and the audio performed perfectly. And the video quality is beautiful. The first thing you're going to notice are those title cards at the beginning of the film. Now, when you're comparing the 4K to the standard Blu-ray, you're going to want to use something like this, because the standard Blu-ray and the 4K set will be the same transfer as on the 4K disc. You don't need to have this exact set or even the 10-disc set, just a standard Blu-ray from before this year. So on the standard Blu-ray, the title cards are going to look a little bit orangey, yellow, and then you look at the 4K, they're going to look white. They're going to look the way they should. So there's going to be a fairly big color difference. It isn't just brightness. The way the colored lights fall on everyone is crisper and more definite on the 4K. They're separate from each other. They don't blend in. They just look like light falling on something. They don't seep into someone's skin or clothes. Very much like the shadows on the regular Blu-ray tend to just darken the entire image. But when you look at the 4K, the shadows are the way they're supposed to be. They only darken the things that they fall onto. So the lights, the shadows, the colored lights all behave the way they should, look far more natural. The detail is greatly enhanced. What struck out to me is the image at the end when Michael falls on fire, and then we just see a close-up of the mask burning. Close-ups are usually going to look really, really sharp anyway. And the fire just looked fantastic. What 4K and HDR does for fire is beautiful. Because now you can get that wider gradation in the fire, and things don't just look almost pure white. And then we get to the Atmos mix, which is probably better than on the first one. Just like with the first one, all the dialogue is going to be in front of you, so the thing you want to pay attention to the most is the music and all the ambient noise like the rain or thunder, things like that. And not only is that just a really great surround sound, but it is obviously crisper and higher quality than this Blu-ray. Of course, since it bookends the movie, what strikes you first is the song Mr. Sandman. You can just very clearly hear the entire arrangement of the song. So now that brings me to Halloween 4, and that might even be better than Halloween 2, which is better than Halloween 1. Another reviewer mentioned that the image has a very three-dimensional quality to it, which is true. You can see a bit farther into the image than on other releases. It's also just crisper and clearer and more separate in the shadows and the highlights. You actually see things where bright light falls and you don't see things where shadows fall, whereas on the other Blu-ray you just don't really see much of anything if it's a darkly lit scene. And then the Atmos mix on this is incredible. It has far more depth and height than any of the others that I have. You feel like you're there. It sounds as if you're in a thunderstorm at the beginning of the movie. It's just incredibly well done. So when it comes to upgrading from the Blu-ray, I would say absolutely. If you enjoy the films, though. They look incredible. They sound incredible. The sources on all these movies has always been really, really good. Things that have been released this often are usually preserved really, really well, because they have to be. So by no means do any of these releases look or sound terrible, but these releases are going to give you a far more cinematic experience than the other releases. These are the discs you should probably have as your definitive viewing. And then the movies themselves are fantastic. These are my second and third favorites in this series. The opening of the second is a bit goofy because they refilmed the end of the first one, and for some reason they forgot to count the number of shots that Loomis fired. So in Halloween 2 it's 7, whereas at the end of Halloween it's 6, as it's supposed to be. They could have fixed that by just tacking on the end of the first film or just blending the two together. Because another reason they reshot it is because Jamie Lee Curtis had shorter hair, and so it wouldn't have matched if they had used the ending to the last film. So she had to wear a wig, although personally I don't think it really matters all that much. It would have worked out just fine. Just reshoot a few bits like the kids running out of the house and Michael falling off the balcony, and I think you'd be good to go. A lot of people don't really like how slowly Dick Warlock walked, but I think that's fairly accurate. Even though we're dealing with someone who's said not to be fully human, we still see some signs of a mortal man. For instance, when he goes and steals the knife at the Elrods, he leaves blood on the counter. That's one of my favorite scenes because he just goes in when her back is turned, steals the knife, kind of just stands in the background a bit and watches the TV, and then goes away. They homaged that in the 2018 Halloween, but the difference is that he killed the woman, which was disappointing. It was a fine twist because you don't want to do the exact same thing, but it just didn't seem quite right. And then probably my favorite kill in this movie would be Bud, just because it's in the background. And there's just the ambient noise of the hot tub. That whole scene is great because they don't overemphasize everything. They just let the atmosphere do the work. John Carpenter begrudgingly wrote Halloween 2, and he has since called it an abomination, and he hates it. And he doesn't think Rick Rosenthal captured the essence of the material very well. In some ways, I think that might be kind of true, and it begins with the start of the film. As I said, the beginning of the film is the end of the first film, which they refilmed. So Loomis shoots Michael, and then he goes out the door, and he has a bit of a tense, worried look about him. Now, in the first movie, when it got to the end, Donald Pleasence told John Carpenter that he could play it one of two ways. Oh my God, or I knew this would happen. John Carpenter told him to do it both ways. They went with I knew this would happen, which was the best choice. But at the beginning of Halloween 2, it's almost as if he's playing it, oh my God. So there are some moments that I think Rick Rosenthal missed. But overall, Halloween 2 is a good movie, and it's a very good Halloween movie. And then Halloween 4 has some great moments. It may not be the scariest, it may not be the most suspenseful of all the films, but there are moments that are scary in a slightly different way. For instance, when he kills the guy at the power station. Watching this again, I realized just how wonderful that is and how good of an actor that guy is, too. As would be typical in horror movies, he didn't go over the top in one direction or the other. He was very real, and you could feel his fear. I think it's very accurate to how anyone would behave in that situation. And then one of the best overall sequences is with the sheriff's daughter and the deputy. There's the moment when we turn away, and then Michael's mask just comes through the shadows a bit, and then goes back. And then the best moment, probably the best moment of the movie, I think, is when she comes down to bring him some food, and then she lights a candle and sees that, no, he's dead in the corner. So, who's that sitting in the rocking chair with the shotgun pointing at the door? And then Michael slowly stands up. It's the goofiest kill of the movie, for sure. But that moment is just wonderful. It's wonderfully shot, wonderfully lit, a great piece of directing, and a great piece of cinematography. And watching it again, I see that this movie shows that even though this is not the best mask, it's one of the worst masks of the series, they use it really, really well. It doesn't fit on George Wilbur's head as well as Halloween 6. It's a lot more blank than it should be, because the features on the mask should not be incredibly well defined. They shouldn't be too distinctively human, but it shouldn't be as blank as this mask. However, like I said, they use it really, really well. They light it really, really well. Even though the mask in Halloween 2, which is the mask from the first movie, got a bit warped and discolored, and you have sort of a wonky mouth on it, It works really well and it fits great on Dick Warlock's head. The masks have always been a really good metaphorical representation of Michael's physical form. So those are the 4Ks of Halloween 2 and 4. I don't think I'm going to buy any more of them because Halloween 1, 2, and 4 are my favorites. Okay, so while you can, I recommend going and picking these up. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.